Ladies and gentlemen, listen very carefully because this might be the most important health message you hear today. What if I told you that one simple habit practiced for thousands of years can dramatically lower your risk of heart disease, reprogram how your body handles stress, sharpen your brain, improve your sleep, and strengthen you at a cellular level? No pills, no gimmicks, just a controlled dose of heat that flips on survival pathways your body is desperate to activate. If you're not using a sauna, you're missing a biological signal your body evolved to depend on. And once you understand what that signal does, you won't be able to ignore it. If you're not using a sauna, I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple question. What if one of the most powerful tools for improving your health, resilience, and longevity is something humans have been using for thousands of years, and it's sitting right there, largely ignored? Because when you look at the data, when you look at the physiology, and when you look at how the human body adapts to stress, sauna use stands out as one of the most underestimated interventions we have. Your body is not designed for comfort. It's designed for adaptation. Every time you expose yourself to a controlled stressor, whether that's exercise, fasting, cold exposure, or heat, you activate deeply conserved survival pathways. Sauna bathing is a form of heat stress, and heat stress triggers a cascade of biological responses that go far beyond simply sweating and relaxing. When your core temperature rises, your body perceives it as a threat, and in response, it turns on protective mechanisms that make you more robust at a cellular level. One of the most important of these mechanisms is the production of heat shock proteins. These are molecular chaperones whose job is to protect your proteins from damage, help them fold correctly, and repair or recycle those that are misfolded. Protein damage is a hallmark of aging and chronic disease. When heat shock proteins increase, your cells become better at maintaining integrity under stress. This isn't theoretical. We see this repeatedly in both animal models and human data. Regular heat exposure trains your cells to become more resilient, and that resilience carries over into daily life. Then there's cardiovascular health. When you sit in a sauna, your heart rate increases in a way that is remarkably similar to moderate intensity exercise. Blood vessels dilate, circulation improves, and your vascular endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, gets a stimulus that promotes flexibility and function. Over time, this repeated exposure improves blood pressure regulation and overall cardiovascular efficiency. Long-term observational data from populations that use saunas frequently show dramatically reduced risks of cardiovascular events. This is not a small effect. We're talking about meaningful reductions in all-cause mortality and heart-related deaths with consistent use. Your brain is not left out of this equation. Heat stress increases the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a molecule that supports the growth, maintenance, and survival of neurons. BDNF is essential for learning, memory, and overall cognitive function. It's also one of the reasons exercise is so beneficial for the brain, and sauna use appears to activate overlapping pathways. At the same time, sauna bathing reduces baseline levels of stress hormones over time, even though they may rise acutely during the session. This teaches your nervous system how to handle stress more efficiently, which translates into improved mood, better sleep, and greater emotional resilience. Speaking of sleep, one of the most immediate benefits people notice from sauna use is deeper, more restorative rest. After you leave the sauna, your core body temperature gradually drops. This decline is a powerful signal to your brain that it's time to sleep. Quality sleep is foundational for immune function, metabolic health, and mental clarity, and anything that reliably improves sleep architecture has a downstream effect on nearly every system in the body. Metabolic health is another area where sauna use quietly exerts influence. Heat exposure improves insulin sensitivity and glucose regulation, partly through increased blood flow to muscles and partly through cellular stress responses that enhance metabolic flexibility. Chronic inflammation is reduced over time, and inflammatory markers tend to decrease with regular sauna use. Inflammation is a common thread linking conditions like obesity, type 2 diabetes, neurodegeneration, and cardiovascular disease. So interventions that safely lower inflammation have broad implications. Your immune system also responds to heat in a fascinating way. Elevated body temperature mimics a mild fever, which is one of the body's oldest defense mechanisms. This can stimulate immune cell activity and enhance surveillance against pathogens. Regular sauna users often report fewer minor illnesses, and while subjective reports aren't enough on their own, They align well with what we understand about immune activation and recovery. What's especially compelling is that sauna use doesn't require perfection. You don't need to be an elite athlete or have flawless habits. The benefits scale with consistency, not intensity alone. Even a few sessions per week can lead to measurable changes over time. The key is that you are voluntarily choosing discomfort for a short period, signaling to your biology that it needs to adapt and upgrade its defenses. There's also a psychological component that shouldn't be ignored. Sitting in a sauna forces you to slow down. You can't multitask. You can't scroll endlessly. You're present with the sensation of heat and your own breathing. That alone can recalibrate your relationship with stress. You learn that discomfort is temporary, manageable, and often followed by a profound sense of calm. That lesson carries into other areas of life, shaping how you respond to challenges. From an evolutionary perspective, humans have always encountered arid thermal stress. We evolved in environments without climate control where heat exposure was unavoidable. Modern life has removed many of these natural stressors, and in doing so, it has deprived our bodies of signals they rely on to stay strong. Sauna use reintroduces one of those signals in a controlled, intentional way. This isn't about chasing extremes or biohacking for the sake of optimization. It's about aligning your lifestyle with what your biology expects. Heat exposure is a conversation with your cells, a reminder that they are capable of adapting, repairing, and thriving when given the right stimulus. Over time, these small, repeated conversations add up, influencing how you age, how you feel, and how resilient you become in the face of both physical and psychological stress, shaping a physiology that is better prepared for the demands of modern life while staying deeply connected to ancient adaptive pathways that continue to define human health and performance in ways we are only beginning to fully appreciate. When you step into a sauna, you're not just passively heating your body, you're re-engaging in a deliberate practice that communicates urgency to your cells. That urgency is information. It tells your mitochondria to become more efficient, to produce energy with less waste, to handle oxidative stress with greater precision. Mitochondrial dysfunction sits at the center of fatigue, aging, and degenerative disease, and heat exposure nudges these energy-producing organelles toward greater resilience and capacity. As your body temperature rises, blood flow is redistributed toward the skin, enhancing detoxification through sweating. While the term detox is often misused, sweating does play a role in eliminating certain heavy metals and environmental toxins that accumulate over time. More importantly, this process lightens the load on your liver and kidneys, allowing them to function more efficiently. This is a subtle effect, but subtle does not mean insignificant. Over years, small reductions in toxic burden can translate into meaningful differences in metabolic and neurological health. Hormonal regulation also shifts with regular sauna use. Growth hormone levels increase transiently after sessions, supporting tissue repair, muscle maintenance, and fat metabolism. Cortisol dynamics become more balanced, meaning your stress response becomes sharper when you need it and quieter when you don't. This improved hormonal rhythm affects everything from body composition to mental clarity. You're not forcing these changes. You're allowing your physiology to recalibrate itself through an ancient signal it understands deeply. Pain perception often changes as well. Heat exposure increases endorphin release, which can reduce chronic pain and improve overall well-being. For people dealing with joint stiffness, muscle soreness, or lingering inflammation, the sauna can feel like a reset button. But beyond the immediate relief, repeated exposure can reduce pain sensitivity over time, changing how the nervous system interprets discomfort. That shift matters because chronic pain is not just a physical issue, it's a neurological one. There's also a powerful connection between sauna use and longevity-related genes. Heat stress activates pathways associated with cellular repair and autophagy. The process by which cells clean out damaged components and recycle them. Autophagy declines with age, contributing to the accumulation of cellular debris that impairs function. By stimulating this cleanup process, sauna use helps maintain cellular efficiency. It's maintenance at the microscopic level, happening quietly while you sit and breathe in the heat. What's striking is how accessible this intervention is compared to many modern health strategies. You don't need supplements with long ingredient lists or complex protocols. You need heat, time, and consistency. The simplicity is part of its power. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, sauna use reminds us that some of the most effective practices are also the most elemental. Social connection can also be woven into this practice. In many cultures, sauna bathing is communal, fostering conversation, reflection, and a sense of belonging. Social bonds are a known predictor of longevity and mental health, and shared sauna experiences can strengthen those bonds. Even when practiced alone, the ritual itself can become a form of self-connection, a scheduled pause where you choose to care for your body and mind. Adaptation is cumulative. The first few sessions might feel intense. Your heart rate climbs, your breathing changes, and your mind may want to escape. But with time, your tolerance increases. This adaptation mirrors life itself. By repeatedly choosing to stay present through manageable discomfort, you're training not just your body, but your mindset. You're reinforcing the idea that growth happens on the other side of stress, not in its absence. The immune benefits extend further than many realize. Heat exposure increases circulation of white blood cells and enhances immune surveillance. This doesn't mean you'll never get sick, but it does mean your immune system becomes more responsive and efficient. In a time when immune resilience matters more than ever, practices that support immune readiness without overstimulation are invaluable. Skin health improves as well. Increased blood flow delivers oxygen and nutrients to the skin, supporting collagen production and cellular turnover. Over time, this can improve texture, tone, and elasticity. These changes reflect deeper improvements in circulation and metabolic health rather than superficial cosmetic effects. The skin, after all, is a window into internal physiology. There's a metabolic cost to heat exposure that shouldn't be overlooked. Your body expends energy to maintain homeostasis under heat stress, increasing caloric expenditure modestly. While this is not a replacement for physical activity, it complements an active lifestyle by enhancing metabolic efficiency. When combined with exercise, the benefits appear to be additive, amplifying cardiovascular and muscular adaptations. What often surprises people is how sauna use influences mental focus and creativity. After sessions, many report a sense of clarity and openness, likely due to shifts in neurotransmitters and increased cerebral blood flow. This mental state can make problem-solving easier and reduce rumination. It's not uncommon for insights to arise in the quiet aftermath of heat exposure, when the nervous system transitions from sympathetic activation to parasympathetic calm. Consistency matters more than duration. Shorter, regular sessions can be just as effective as longer, sporadic ones. The body responds to patterns. By creating a routine, you're giving your biology predictable signals, allowing it to optimize its responses. Over months and years, these signals shape how you age, how quickly you recover, and how resilient you feel. There's also an important lesson here about agency. Choosing to step into the sauna is a conscious decision to engage with discomfort for long-term benefit. That decision reinforces a sense of control over your health. Instead of reacting to symptoms, you're proactively shaping your physiology. This shift from reactive to proactive health is transformative. Modern medicine excels at treating acute problems, but practices like sauna use excel at building a foundation that reduces the likelihood of those problems arising in the first place. It's not an either-or proposition, it's an integration. Heat exposure works alongside nutrition, movement, sleep, and social connection, amplifying the benefits of each. As research continues to emerge, we're likely to uncover even more mechanisms through which heat exposure supports human health. But even now, the convergence of epidemiological data, mechanistic studies, and lived experience paints a compelling picture. Sauna use is not a trend, it's a return to a biological conversation that has been ongoing since the beginning of our species. When you consider how little time it requires relative to the breadth of its effects, it becomes clear why this practice has endured across cultures and generations. It meets the body where it is, challenges it just enough, and then allows it to rebound stronger. That rebound is where the magic happens, in the space between stress and recovery, where adaptation is forged and resilience becomes encoded into your physiology, influencing not just how you feel today, but how you move, think, and respond to the world moment by moment as these adaptations continue to unfold and integrate into the fabric of your daily life. From that point forward, the effects become less about isolated benefits and more about an overall shift in how your body handles the world. Stress no longer hits the same way. Challenges that once felt overwhelming become manageable because your nervous system has been trained repeatedly to move through intensity and come out the other side intact. This is hormesis in action. Small, intentional stressors creating a system that is stronger, calmer, and more adaptable under real-world pressure. Heat exposure also influences the way your body manages fluid balance and electrolytes. As you sweat, you lose sodium and other minerals, but with regular sauna use, your body becomes more efficient at conserving what it needs. This adaptation mirrors what happens in trained athletes, where sweat composition changes over time to reduce excessive losses. It's another example of how the body learns from repeated exposure, refining its responses to preserve internal stability. Your relationship with discomfort changes as well. Instead of avoiding it at all costs, you begin to recognize it as a signal rather than a threat. This has profound implications for mental health. Anxiety often arises from an overactive threat response, where the nervous system interprets neutral or manageable situations as dangerous. By voluntarily entering a hot environment and staying calm, breathing steadily, and remaining present, you're teaching your brain that discomfort does not automatically equal danger. Over time, this lesson generalizes beyond the sauna. There's also evidence that regular heat exposure supports vascular growth through angiogenesis, the formation of new blood vessels. Improved capillary density enhances oxygen and nutrient delivery to tissues, supporting endurance, recovery, and overall vitality. This is particularly relevant as we age, when circulation tends to decline. By maintaining vascular flexibility and growth, you're preserving the infrastructure that keeps tissues healthy and responsive. Inflammation, when acute and well-regulated, is protective. When chronic and unresolved, it becomes destructive. Sauna use appears to help recalibrate this balance. Pro-inflammatory signals rise briefly during heat exposure, followed by a compensatory anti-inflammatory response. Over time, baseline inflammation decreases. This rhythmic pattern trains the immune system to respond robustly when needed and stand down efficiently afterward, a hallmark of a well-functioning system. The gut, often overlooked in discussions of heat exposure, may also benefit indirectly. Improved circulation, reduced systemic inflammation, and better autonomic balance all support gut barrier integrity and microbial balance. The gut-brain axis is highly sensitive to stress, and practices that stabilize the nervous system can have downstream effects on digestion, nutrient absorption, and even mood regulation. Another layer to consider is how sauna use interacts with circadian biology. Heat exposure earlier in the day can enhance alertness, while sessions later in the afternoon or evening can promote relaxation and sleepiness through the subsequent cooling phase. Aligning sauna use with your natural rhythms can amplify its benefits, reinforcing the daily cycles that govern hormone release, metabolism, and repair processes. Recovery from physical training is also enhanced. Increased blood flow helps clear metabolic byproducts from muscles, while growth hormone and heat shock proteins support tissue repair. Athletes have long used heat strategically, not just for relaxation, but as a tool to accelerate adaptation. Even for non-athletes, this improved recovery translates into feeling more capable and less fatigued in daily activities. What's important to understand is that the sauna is not doing the work for you. Your body is doing the work in response to the signal. The heat is simply the messenger. This distinction matters because it reframes health as an active process rather than a passive one. You're not being fixed, you're adapting. That mindset empowers you to take ownership of your health journey. Over time, these adaptations create a buffer against aging-related decline. Aging is not just the passage of time, it's the gradual loss of resilience. When systems lose the ability to respond to stress, repair damage, and return to baseline, function deteriorates. Sauna use supports exactly those capacities. It doesn't stop aging, but it can slow the rate at which resilience is lost. There's also something to be said about ritual. In a fragmented world, rituals anchor us. A regular sauna practice can become a checkpoint in your week, a moment where you intentionally step away from external demands. This psychological boundary is restorative in its own right. It signals to your brain that it's safe to downshift, to release accumulated tension, and to recalibrate priorities. As you continue this practice, you may notice changes that are hard to quantify but easy to feel. A steadier mood, fewer energy crashes, a sense of warmth that lingers, not just in your muscles but in your outlook. These subjective experiences are reflections of underlying physiological shifts, the kind that don't always show up immediately on lab tests but shape how you experience your life. It's also worth acknowledging that adaptation requires recovery. Hydration, mineral intake, and listening to your body are essential. The goal is not to push to exhaustion, but to apply just enough stress to trigger growth. This principle applies universally, whether in heat exposure, exercise, or cognitive challenges. The art lies in finding the balance where stress stimulates rather than depletes. As research continues, we're learning more about individual variability. Genetics, baseline health, and lifestyle all influence how someone responds to heat exposure. This doesn't diminish the value of the practice, it highlights the importance of personalization. Paying attention to how you feel during and after sessions allows you to tailor the experience to your own physiology. The simplicity of sauna use can be deceptive because it feels relaxing. It's easy to overlook how profoundly it challenges the body. Beneath the calm exterior, complex signaling pathways are being activated, genes are being expressed, and systems are being coordinated. It's a reminder that powerful interventions don't always look dramatic on the surface. As these changes accumulate, they begin to interact with each other. Improved sleep enhances immune function. Better immune regulation reduces inflammation. Lower inflammation supports metabolic health. Enhanced metabolic health improves energy levels and mood. Each benefit reinforces the next, creating a positive feedback loop that elevates overall well-being. Ultimately, the sauna becomes less of an activity and more of a relationship with your own biology, a regular check-in with the mechanisms that keep you alive and adaptable. By honoring that relationship, you're not chasing youth or perfection, you're cultivating durability. You're building a body and mind that can absorb stress, recover efficiently, and remain flexible in the face of change, continuing to evolve and strengthen as these responses deepen, reinforce one another, and quietly shape the trajectory of your health across time.